the question, and we now come to business questions. Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
To ask the Leader for the forthcoming business.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 20th of May will include, on Monday, the 20th of May, a general debate on Ukraine. Tuesday, the 21st of May, consideration of Lord's message to the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Bill, followed by a motion to approve the Draft Scotland Act 1998, Increase of Borrowing Limits Order 2024, followed by a motion relating to the High-Speed Rail Crewe to Manchester Bill. Wednesday, the 22nd of May, motion to approve the Draft Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015, Risk of Being Drawn into Terrorism Revised Guidance Regulations 2024, followed by a motion to approve the Draft Licensing 2003 UEFA European Football Championship Licensing Hours Order 2024, followed by consideration in committee and remaining stages of the Holocaust Memorial Bill. Thursday, the 23rd of May, a general debate on UK arms exports to Israel, followed by a general debate on potholes and highway maintenance. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. The House will rise for the Whitsun recess at the conclusion of business on Thursday, the 23rd of May, and return on Monday, the 3rd of June. The provisional business for the week commencing the 3rd of June includes Monday, the 3rd of June, a general debate, subject to be confirmed. Tuesday, the 4th of June, remaining stages of the Criminal Justice Bill. Wednesday, the 5th of June, Opposition Day debate. Thursday, the 6th of June, business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday, the 7th of June, private members' bills.
Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I join Mr Speaker in thanking the Speaker's chaplain, the Reverend Canon Tricia Hillis, for all her wise counsel and support through some difficult and celebratory moments in her time as the chaplain. We all wish her well on her elevation. Can I also congratulate the members for Stafford and Canterbury on their cross-party parliamentary inquiry into birth trauma this week. I think all of us who have gone through childbirth can recognise their stories and findings, although I did have good experiences with mine. I fully support their calls for a national birth strategy. I also want to thank all those members who took part in the debate on risk-based exclusions on Monday. We had a good discussion. The House has now taken a view that a process of risk assessment of members under arrest for serious sexual and violent offences shall be put in place. Since Monday, I've been struck by how many women in less privileged and powerful positions than mine have approached me to say thank you, and how this decision has changed how they feel about working here. It might not always feel like it, but there is a watching audience wanting to see us as a workplace and employers make progress on these issues, and this week we did. Last week, the Leader and I launched a guide for MPs and candidates on tackling conspiracy theories. We agreed that conspiracy theories are a form of radicalisation, and we must all do everything we can to combat them. So is she as disappointed as me then to see the Honourable Member for Lewis sharing in campaign literature a conspiracy theory featured in that guide relating to 15-minute cities, which is closely linked to anti-Semitism and far-right movements? The Honourable Member just last week gave a staunch defence of her actions, showing no contrition for the damage she has caused. Will the Leader send her a copy of the guide, tell her why she's made a big mistake and why she should quickly and strongly renounce it? Turning now to the Criminal Justice Bill, does the Leader think it's acceptable to members that on the evening before the first day of remaining stages of the Criminal Justice Bill, members did not know which or what amendments were to be debated? This is an important bill with a number of significant backbench and government proposals, on issues of wide public concern, such as cuckooing, dangerous cycling, ninja swords, abortion and one-punch manslaughter. The bill came out of committee in January. Why has it taken so long to get to report stage? And having taken so long, why were members left completely in the dark about what would be discussed and when? With over 180 pages of amendments, including 22 new government changes, published very late the night before. This is no way to run business, and it's deeply disrespectful to members. It's just another symptom of the chaos at the heart of this government's operation and disregard it holds for this House, isn't it? And that's just day one of this bill. Why such a further delay to day two? We should be doing it next week, not in another 3. Extended drinking hours for the Euros is welcome, but it doesn't need to be on the floor of the House. Is it because they've got more handling concerns and are worried about defeats on the criminal justice bill? Or is it because, even during the Euros, they couldn't organise a booze-up in a brewery? Can the leader assure the House that any further amendments or programming changes on day 2 will be published in good time? Madam Deputy Speaker, the future business is, yet again, so light that it's almost laughable. But it's actually not that funny. The country faces huge headwinds. Families are in a cost of living crisis. Millions linger on NHS waiting lists, and communities are beset by problems. Yet the government of the day seems to have nothing they want to change, nothing they are in a hurry to sort out, nothing to bring to this House. These could, hopefully, be the last few months the Conservatives are in power for some years. Do they really have nothing they want to do with it? If they've got nothing they want to use their parliamentary majority for, why are they even bothering holding on to it?
And I'm assuming the Honourable Lady will have informed the member that she referred to that she was going to. Excellent. Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, first of all, can I send my good wishes for a full and speedy recovery to Prime Minister Fico following the horrific attempt on his life, and echo the comments from the Honourable Lady opposite regarding the Speaker's chaplain, and wish her well on her next chapter. I would also like to thank Mr Speaker for his statement this morning, which I think was very helpful. And can I also thank Anthony Wickens and his colleagues for coming to Parliament this week to promote and help us all understand the importance of dementia support in this important week. Can I join with the Honourable Lady opposite and thank not just those 2 lead members, but all members who helped to bring forward this very important report into birth trauma. It has had a huge response across the country, and I know that not just the Prime Minister and ministers on the front bench, but many organisations concerned with the care of mums-to-be and new mums are taking this report very seriously, and I hope it will do much good on this very important matter. The Honourable Lady mentions the Honourable Lady for Lewis, and I'm sorry that she's made the comments that she has and implied that she has anti-Semitic views. I think that is quite wrong, and I'm afraid is a pattern of behaviour of inciting unpleasant things. We've seen it this week following, I'm afraid, Monday's vote, which has led to the statement that the Speaker has had to make. I'm very pleased that we brought that motion forward, the work that the Commission did, and that we now have a scheme in place. I'm sorry that all members did not have the opportunity to vote on that final motion, and I'm very sorry that one of the results of the debate and what has followed is that our environment has become less safe for certain members, ironically female members of Parliament, following some of the actions that have happened since that debate took place. She talks about the criminal justice bill. She will understand that it's quite normal for government to talk to people who are proposing amendments. Of course, before a bill comes back doesn't mean that work isn't being done on the bill. They are complex issues, and of course members will be given good opportunity and oversight of any amendments or changes that are being brought forward. She talks about business being light. I would just remind her that in this short session that we have, the final session of this Parliament, we have already introduced more bills than Labour's last 4 sessions in office by a considerable margin. And if business collapses, it is not the fault of this side of the House, it is the fault of those who are there to oppose. And we've even had that happen in opposition day debates. It's our business and we're getting it through this House. If it takes us less time because the opposition failed to show up, that's not our problem. And today we've had the Leader of the Opposition setting out his first steps. But he has already been on quite a journey. He has got on at Islington North with a flexible principals ticket, and he claims he is taking his party and us to Dover and Deal. However, it is becoming clear that due to industrial action, fewer trains under a Labour government, and running out of other people's money, he's going to have to join a rail replacement bus service terminating at Rayners Lane. I hope for the sake of those at Dover waiting on a promise of a train that is never going to arrive, that there is a compensation scheme in place, perhaps a daily allowance in the other place. I don't think the public, who have long memories, are going to fall for the stunt that is going on in parallel to business questions, because they have long memories and they also can look at what is happening in Labour-run Wales. They are not going to fall for today's pledge card. Economic stability. The author of the "There is no money left" note still sits on Labour's benches. Cut waiting lists. The only NHS cuts Labour have ever made have not been to waiting lists, but to its budget. They've cut the NHS budget 3 times. Border Security Command. Labour would end the new systems command and legislation that is having an effect on small boats, even when they agree it is working. Public ownership of energy. How is that working out for Nottingham Council? Tackle antisocial behaviour. Under Labour, crime was twice what it is now. And if you are in a Labour PPC area, you're 40% more likely to be a victim of crime. And new teachers, there were 30,000 fewer teachers under Labour than there are now. And they have plans to tax education, destroying a ladder for many children and increasing the burden on the state sector. There's nothing there. There's no vision, no plan, no principles on which to steer by, which is why this pledge card will go the way of all the others. And with apologies to the Beatles, this Leader of the Opposition is a nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. He doesn't have a point of view, he's no good for me or you. And judging by this latest pledge card, he is nowhere near good enough for Britain.
Theresa Villiers.
In this Dementia Action Week, can we have a minister come to the dispatch box and talk about plans to ensure the NHS is ready to roll out early diagnosis of dementia so that people can benefit from potentially transformative drugs like lecanemab, which for the first time will treat the actual condition rather than just the symptoms?
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for raising this very important point. It is absolutely vital. We have these new opportunities, these fantastic new drugs and therapies coming online, that people have access to them, and I thank her for raising awareness of that. But it is also very important that we learn from the huge amount of research that's going on into dementia support as well, which not only can be hugely beneficial to those with dementia and their families and carers, but also will save the NHS billions.
SNP spokesperson Deidre Brock.
Madam Deputy Speaker, firstly, I will take the Leader up on last week's offer of a deeper briefing with the Minister on what she described as some minor issues to resolve in the border operating model. If, as she told me last week, she is paying great attention to what's going on and still didn't see huge lorries as they wait 20 hours at border posts, perhaps she should take a trip to Barnard Castle. I'd like to take the CEO of the Cold Chain Federation, whose members certainly don't agree with her that there are no fundamental issues to sort, to that briefing with me to deliver a dose of reality. Can we have a debate in government time on the careful use of words in politics? The Prime Minister has refused to apologise for his offensive outburst on Monday. He quite deliberately associated the Scottish Government with Hamas terrorists, North Korea and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Madam Deputy Speaker, the good folk of Edinburgh, North and Leith have elected a dangerous extremist. Who knew? And the vast majority of MPs from Scotland who also want independence. Them too. All along we thought we were democratically elected members of this House just like her. You'd think the Conservatives of Brexit Britain would respect a nation's right to self-determination as a perfectly honourable political position. Or is it just Scotland's they don't respect? But we will always defend our nation's best interests. Maybe that's what terrifies the PM and the likes of the Scottish Secretary who wants to force ruinously expensive, untried nuclear reactors on renewables-rich Scotland. Yep. Now he's frightening our bairns with threats of a unionist regime. Scottish Labour back in power to push through our overlords' cunning plans. What a better together reunion that would be. Remind me what happened to that respect agenda. It would almost be funny if it wasn't coming from this particular government. An unknown number of convicted prisoners let loose around England, the Home Office losing thousands of migrants under their watch, and an English courts and justice system on the verge of collapse. But what's on the Prime Minister's new hate list? What keeps Tories awake at night with fear? People like me, apparently. How laughable. Can the leader confirm if she believes the Prime Minister was right to associate Scottish Democrats with those Hamas terrorists and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, or will she take this opportunity to distance herself from this laughably desperate baloney?
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, can I first reassure the Honourable Lady that there is A, nothing wrong with my eyesight, and secondly, that she does not keep me awake at night. Could I also just draw her attention to the news this week that the Eurozone economy is growing half as fast as Britain? I'll just repeat that. The Eurozone economy is growing half as fast as Britain. And I think that the SNP's time would be better spent not trying to refight past referendums of all types, but more focused on the issues today. For example, the housing emergency that has just been declared in Scotland due to their rent control policy. She raises the very serious matter of the Prime Minister's language, and I understand that thanks to the Scottish Government, you can now fill in a hate report form. So if the Honourable Lady has any concerns, she can just fill in a report and pile more work onto her hard-pushed police officers. With regard to the plans to put a nuclear power station in Scotland, it is, I think, sensible to plan for a unionist party to be in government in Scotland. Given the time scales involved in nuclear construction, I don't think that is I think it is a sensible and pragmatic thing to do. It is very clear to everyone, except the SNP, that their party is in their final death throes. And I predict, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the tragic finale of that, when the SNP finally do completely implode and meet their end, is that there will still be no ferry to carry them across the Styx.
Tobias Ellwood.
Madam Deputy Speaker, tourism is a vital component for Bournemouth's economy, and indeed half of our visitors to our fantastic seaside resort come by car. But if this BCP Council gets its way, Bournemouth could soon be subject to a default 20-mile-an-hour speed limit that will simply slow everything down, meaning we all spend more time stuck in traffic, increasing pollution, rather than at our destinations. We already have designated 20-mile-an-hour zones around schools, for example, but a default limit across the town would not just impact on the visitor experience, but it would also slow down the movement of public transport, delivery vans, and indeed parents doing the school run. The policy didn't work in Wales, and it won't work in Bournemouth. So please, can we have a debate on councils imposing unwanted speed limits?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that this is happening in my right honourable friend's constituency, and you would hope that local authorities would learn from mistakes that are being made elsewhere and stop inflicting policies that do not work and cause huge damage to public services and the local economy. I'm sorry to hear that his council are determined to press ahead with this. The experience in Wales has been dreadful, including very deep concerns from the emergency services, who have found it difficult to go about their business in the way that they need to, and of course massive costs piled onto business.
Chair of the Backbench Business Committee, Ian Mearns.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Leader of the House for making the business statement and for announcing the Backbench Business debates on next Thursday, the 23rd of May, and also announcing the fact that we've got the Thursday, the 6th of June, as a Backbench Business Committee debate day. The committee have provisionally offered debates for that day on hormone pregnancy tests and on the subject of recognition of the Republic of Somaliland. The committee, though, is still open for business, and we very much would welcome applications for debates in Westminster Hall, particularly on Thursdays. I was also wondering if the Leader of the House would join me in a pleasant little thing from my perspective in wishing the warmest congratulations to Gateshead Football Club, who were victorious and lifted the FA Trophy at Wembley last Saturday.
Leader of the House.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his very helpful advert for forthcoming business for the Backbench business debates. And of course, I will join him, and I think the whole House will join him in celebrating this wonderful achievement by his much-loved club, Gateshead. We send our congratulations to you.
Theo Clarke.
Speaker, and can I firstly thank both the Leader and the Shadow Leader for their kind cross-party support for our landmark report this week into birth trauma. The all-party parliamentary group has published a major report called Listen to Mums, Ending the Postcode Lottery on Perinatal Health. This was the first cross-party report by MPs, and we received over 1,300 submissions from the public. I'm delighted that yesterday the Prime Minister did announce that there will now be a comprehensive national maternity strategy, which we asked for in our recommendations. So can I ask my right honourable friend to provide government time for a debate for us to discuss the important recommendations made in our national inquiry? And can I also ask her to write to the Prime Minister and ask him to confirm he has now read the report in full and to ensure that our recommendations are being implemented to improve aftercare for mothers in this country?
Leader of the House.
I know that the whole House would want to extend our thanks to the Honourable Lady for this landmark piece of work, and I will certainly make sure that the Prime Minister has studied the report in detail. When I last visited the Honourable Lady's constituency, I had the privilege of not just meeting her lovely daughter, but also the man who saved my honourable friend's life. And I think this is a very important report, and I hope that its recommendations will be implemented swiftly.
Barry Sheerman.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I lift the mood of the Leader of the House this morning? She seems a bit down. Can I say to her that can we have more of a celebration of the people that work here? I know we've now going to have greater protection in one part of their lives, but isn't it about time we look round us every day? The people clean this place, the security people, the clerks, everyone in this palace that work here, and we have so many long-time service people in this place. Is there a way that we could? Yes, could we have a debate? But could we do something to make the lives of these people that give so much to us make it better?
Yeah.
Leader of the House.
Well, I would be very happy to raise what the honourable gentleman's suggestion with the House of Commons Commission to see what more we can do. But I thank him for giving us the opportunity, and I hope it is echoed by all in this chamber, to put on record our thanks for everyone that works on the estate and enables us to do our jobs and keep British democracy going.
Sir Michael Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Suret International Israeli Film Festival is running for a couple of weeks from today. Wonderful independent films are shown in art house cinemas across the world, but of course anti-Semites are trying to bully and intimidate cinema chains into not showing these films, and in some cases are sadly succeeding. Now, would Curzon cinemas or picture house cinema chains decline to show films made by the black community because of a war in Africa? Well, obviously the answer is no, and the reason is because that would be racist. And so it is with those sick anti-Semites whose loathing for Jewish people is so extreme that they're now trying to boycott Jewish culture in the UK. So will my right honourable friend agree to organise a debate in this place to support Jewish art and culture? And perhaps Parliament could even show one of these independent films which have got nothing to do with the conflict in the Middle East here in one of the committee rooms, for example.
Well, I thank my right honourable friend for giving us a very good example of how anti-Semitism gets a hold. It starts on things like this, which might seem a reasonable thing for a venue to do, but clearly there are not. And I think the way he has set it out illustrates why it is not. It is really disturbing, and I hope that all members recognise that this community is really under attack, and we need to absolutely be unequivocal and say that we stand with them and we will do everything we can to protect them and call out anti-Semitism wherever it is.
Theo Hobhouse.
Madam Deputy Speaker, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week. Bath Mind, my wonderful charity in Bath, who supports 6,000 people, is worried about the PIP's reform, with the possibility of plunging thousands of families into destitution and homelessness, and the mental health impact that is associated with that, and then their capacity to deliver services as there's increased demand now. Can we have a debate in government time about the PIP reforms and the impact on mental health?
Well, can I thank the Honourable Lady for raising this very important matter. She will know that many of the reforms that we have brought in via the Department for Work and Pensions to provide support for people have massively increased the number of people who are able to access that support with a mental health condition or hidden disability, and that is a good thing. I thank her for raising this matter in this important week, and I will make sure that the Department has heard what she said.
Ian Levy.
Deputy Speaker, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Leader of the House for her business statement this morning. The Leader may be aware that Cramlington, one of the largest towns in Northumberland within my constituency, lacks a local police station. This standalone police station in Cramlington was closed in 2014, and more recently Northumbria Police opened an office within Manor Walks shopping centre. However, this is not adequate replacement for a full police station. Despite the critical needs, successive Labour Police and Crime Commissioners in Northumbria have not taken action to reverse this closure. With a population of over 30,000 and a history of serious crimes, including multiple murders, the residents of Cramlington are in desperate need of a dedicated police station to provide reassurance and support for neighbourhood officers. Could the Leader of the House please schedule a debate during government time to consider what can be done to ensure that constituencies nationwide receive the necessary resources to combat crime?
Leader of the House. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My honourable friend will know that the government has confirmed a total police funding settlement of up to £18.5 billion for the forthcoming financial year, and that's an increase of 886 million when compared with the previous year. And overall police funding available to police crime commissioners is up by 6.3% in cash terms. The resource is there, and we know that our incredible police forces with that resource are halving crime, apart from a few areas notably controlled by Labour. We are making good progress in that respect. But of course, these community facilities are incredibly important to those communities that they serve. I will make sure that the Home Secretary has heard his particular issue, and I will write to him this afternoon.
Chris Webb.
Blackpool Rock is under threat from cheap imitation imports, particularly from China. I joined Stanton and Novelty, a third-generation traditional confectionery manufacturer in my constituency, to lead the charge in safeguarding the status of British-made confectionery. Only 7 remaining rock factories are remaining and are at risk of closure and experiencing 40% drop in sales. jeopardising the livelihoods of local employees and the viability of this historic business. Just 50 people in the UK have the skills required to properly letter sticks of rock, most of them in Blackpool. These traditional skills will soon be lost without intervention. Can we have a debate in government time to discuss securing the historic British confectionery and save Blackpool rock?
I'm sure that for the benefit of Hansard, the honourable gentleman's question was met with roars of approval from all sides of the House, and I thank him for raising this very important issue. This is an iconic project. Everyone knows what Blackpool Rock is, and I will certainly make sure that the Minister has heard about his campaign.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last Thursday, I was able to accompany the Secretary of State for Business and Trade to my constituency, and we toured the port of Immingham. Immingham is the largest port in the country, but the Humber ports contribute £75 billion to the national economy. Could we have a debate in government time on our port industry and the benefits it gives to international trade?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this. These ports play a vital role in the long-term growth of the economy and provide obviously essential access to global markets. I know that this is a focus for many members across the House, even those without a port in their constituency, and I think it would be a very good topic for a debate, and the honourable gentleman will know how to apply for one.
Marcia de Cordova.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is National Mental Health Week, an opportunity for us all to redouble our efforts to tackle the stigma and call for improved mental health service provision. Unfortunately, thousands of people, including my constituents in Battersea, are paying the price for the government's incompetence and failure to deliver its manifesto commitment to update the Mental Health Act. The crisis needs addressing. So can we have a government statement on the actions that will be taken to address this crisis, and when will the government finally bring forward the mental health bill?
Well, can I thank the honourable lady for raising this point, and I know that many honourable members across the House will have spent a great deal of time on this bill, including those that were directly involved in the pre-legislative scrutiny of it. We will bring forward further business and announce it in the usual way, but in the meantime I will make sure that all the relevant Secretaries of State, not just the Secretary of State for Health, have heard the honourable lady's ask today.
Marco Longhi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This week, Care for Calais, a pro-asylum seeker British charity, contacted me asking for my support to help their legal efforts in preventing the deportation to Rwanda of asylum seekers in Dudley that the government have assessed for deportation. I don't think they got the memo, Madam Deputy Speaker. As a result, I have written to the Home Secretary asking him to speed up these deportations. So can we have a debate, Madam Deputy Speaker, on how we can stop organisations such as Care for Calais, who as a charity either directly or indirectly receive government funding, from actively undermining government policy to stop illegal migration?
Well, can I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this point, and I will make sure that the Home Secretary has heard the points he has made today. He will know that the processing that has been going on in the Home Office has speeded up by an immense amount, close to 300%, I think, during the Prime Minister's tenure. So those cases are being cracked through. But of course, we can't have a system with finite resource that just allows endless appeals. That's why we have brought forward such legislation, and why those that have exhausted that process and should not be here and do not have the right to be here need to be sent either home or to a third country. That is very clear, and that will enable us to make best use of the finite resource that we have.
Patricia Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm going to give it one more try.
Given that the Prime Minister now thinks that at least around half of the people in Scotland who believe Scotland should be a self-governing independent country are extremists, will the Leader of the House make a statement setting out whether or not she agrees with this assessment, and can she confirm, for the purposes of clarity, whether or not she believes that those who wish to rejoin the EU are also dangerous extremists in our midst?
Yeah. The union of the United Kingdom is critical to our strength, and were it to be torn apart, which is the prime objective of the honourable members on the bench opposite, we would be weaker as a nation, and the component parts of the United Kingdom would be weaker as a nation. Scotland would be weaker, England would be weaker, Wales would be weaker, Northern Ireland would be weaker. That is a threat to our stability and security, certainly. That is what the Prime Minister said. And if the Honourable Lady thinks he said something else, she can fill in that hate form.
Sir Charles Walker. Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you. The Honourable Gentleman for Huddersfield said we should celebrate long-serving members of staff in this place. And that's exactly what I'd like to do. Would the Leader in the House join me in thanking Terry Wiggins, MBE, who joined the House service in 1974, September 1974. So he will be leaving soon after 50 years of service to us in this place. And also Nick Work, who joined this place shortly afterwards in 1979. So between them, these two gentlemen have 95 years of service to the House of Commons. They are well worth celebrating.
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for doing that? And as you heard very clearly, all of us send our good wishes and thanks and appreciation to both Terry and Nick for their incredible service to this House.
Dan Jarvis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader and nobody in this House needs any reminding of the risks and dangers of political violence. So I'm sure she will share the concerns of the whole House at yesterday's assassination attempt at the Slovakian Prime Minister. This incident is the latest of political violence across Europe, which has brought into sharp focus the heightened and growing threat to politicians across the political spectrum. Given that, does the Leader think that it would be timely for a government minister to update on the important work being done by the Defending Democracy Task Force on work that is being done to keep politicians safe in our country?
Well, can I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this very important point. He will know it's not just the work of the Defending Democracy Task Force, but the House authorities here, our security and intelligence agencies, the Home Office and many other bodies who are very focused to ensure that actually not just us in this place, but all elected individuals can go about their business and have the protection that they need. Some issues he will know very clearly will not be able to be aired on the floor of the House, but I will certainly make sure that all the departments involved have heard his request for the House to be updated, and perhaps they could also offer other briefings, more in-depth briefings, with matters that should not be aired on the floor of the House.
Paul Howell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Earlier this week, I met guests from Police Disability UK who were hosted by my neighbour, the member for Darlington. Police UK Disability Sport provide adaptive sports to the police community regionally, nationally and soon internationally. They're proposing that a portion of the annual proceeds of crime money is made available through a central trust under a police covenant committee where all police charities and not-for-profit organisations can apply to support all serving and retired police officers through recovery, rehabilitation, treatment, physical and mental health and wellbeing services. Over 330 million was seized in 2023. By using 1.75 million, this could project a 5-year project on sports events. They're looking to create something that's like a police version, so an Intrepid Games instead of the instead of the Invictus Games. Could we have a debate on the proceeds of crime funding to help establish opportunities for these amazing police officers?
Leader of the House.
What a good idea, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I will make sure that the Home Secretary has heard that. I think it would be a fantastic initiative to have an Invictus Games for those that that are disabled, whether in service or through other situation, for our fantastic police.
Owen Thompson.
Deputy Speaker, earlier this week the Scottish Secretary seemed to outline an intent to disregard democracy and run roughshod over devolution. Now, the dangerous extremists on these benches believe that democracy is not just a one-time event. So, as we mark 25 years of the Scottish Parliament, could we have a debate in government time to consider how this place can better respect devolution and as it advances towards Scotland becoming an independent nation?
Leader of the House.
Well, that's shocking news about the Secretary of State for Scotland. I thought he was a man that respected the results of all referendums. I think that is supporting democracy. And with regard to devolution, I think if we had a debate on how devolution is working and what the possibilities are for the future, it would be very well attended by members of this House. The chair of the Backbench Business Committee is listening to what I am saying. But I would also just say that when devolution was envisaged, the plan was set in place by parties and nations working together for the benefit of all, as opposed to working against each other.
Rob Butler.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, Mr Speaker has very generously given permission for a reception to be held in Speaker's House later this afternoon to mark the 50th anniversary of the Spinal Injuries Association, which I am delighted to be able to sponsor. Stoke Mandeville Hospital in my constituency is home to the National Spinal Injuries Centre and is also, of course, the birthplace of the Paralympics. Will my right honourable friend, the Leader of the House, join me in congratulating the Spinal Injuries Association on half a century of work to support people who have spinal cord injuries and their loved ones? And does she agree this would be a topic worthy of debate in this House?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for raising this very important point. I think it would be a topic for a debate and it would be well attended, and he will know how to apply for one. And I'm sure we will all join with him in thanking the Spinal Injuries Association and everyone that supports them for the incredible work that they do to support people with these injuries.
Liz Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, the Trussell Trust came to Parliament to update us on the latest figures for distribution of food parcels. And they reported that more than 3.1 million emergency food parcels were provided by food banks in their network last year. And in Gateshead alone, 8,464 people needed support, of which 2,694 were children. Now, I want to pay tribute to the important work Trussell Trust are doing, and the Gateshead Food Bank, and other charities such as Feeding Families in my constituency. But can we have a debate in government time on how we can end this need for food banks?
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for raising this important issue. She will know that this government has put together a now standing at, I think, a £108 billion cost of living support package and the Household Support Fund, which is there to enable local authorities to give grants directly to individuals that might fall through the cracks, and through other measures such as our reform of welfare, which the large share of people that were going to food banks under the last Labour government were people that were being transferred from one benefit to another. We have ended that situation now, and there are also more sustainable alternatives to food banks that are in most communities now. There is still an issue. There is more work to be done, and I will bring what the Honourable Lady has said to the Secretary of State's attention.
Ian Littlegranger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wonder if we could have a debate in government time on the Greenway landfill site. I am very grateful to Councillor Becky Clarke, Ben Collins, who actually was the Stig in another life, and the Stamford Peveril Church of England School for standing up against this. Mid Devon, which is not the ultimate authority for this, has been absolutely useless as usual, and in fact the former chair of the scrutiny, who's done a runner, was meant to be scrutinising this. I'm not surprised. It turns out, according to locals,
that she not only was sacked from the National Farmers Union, but from the Environment Agency, and then sued them. So I'm not surprised. Could we please have time? I've gone on and on about local government not standing up for local people. Thank you for standing up for local people, and I will continue to do so. It's something I think we need to talk about.
The House.
Well, the honourable gentleman is making a very good case, not necessarily for a debate on that topic, but an entire debate, perhaps an entire afternoon on the floor of the House, about his council alone. And as I do every week, I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has said.
Andrew Bridgen.
Mr. Speaker, the Guernsey cardiologist Dr. Dean Patterson has written to the General Medical Council calling for the immediate suspension of the mRNA vaccines after witnessing first-hand in Guernsey what damage they've done. In Guernsey's only got 63,000 residents, of which 93% have had at least 2 jabs. Dr. Patterson stated that he only ever saw 5 cases of myocarditis every year until 2021, when the jabs were rolled out. He saw a 500% increase in myocarditis. So 25 in 2021, 23 further cases in 2022, and in 2023, when fewer jabs were administered, it dropped to 11 cases. Given that the Channel Islands are a Crown dependency, they have no representation in this House, and although the residents of the Channel Islands are British passport holders, they have no access to the UK Vaccine Damage Compensation Scheme. Will the Leader of the House make a statement as to how Dr. Patterson and other concerned medical professionals in the Channel Islands can publicise their concerns about these novel treatments, protect their patients, and how the people of the Channel Islands who've already been harmed by these vaccines can get the compensation that they deserve?
Well, the honourable gentleman has found his own answer. I mean, not only has he given an example of a healthcare professional that is writing to healthcare professionals' bodies and many other organisations which scrutinise and have oversight of vaccines policy, but also members of Parliament can raise it on the floor of the House. I think it's very important that we make sure that the public know that there are statutory bodies, there are third sector organisations, there are democratic organisations and elected representatives who have scrutiny and oversight of all of these matters. And that's why we have a very safe vaccines regime, and that is why if there are any concerns around vaccines or trials that are going on, that is all put in the public domain.
Tom Hunt.
Last week, a constituent of mine who is dyspraxic came to my surgery to raise concerns about lack of awareness. This has been exacerbated by the Dyspraxia Foundation collapsing, so it's now no dedicated dyspraxia-focused organisation in the country to raise these issues. I'd love to say that the issues around my ID and my trouble voting was an ingenious way to raise awareness of dyspraxia. It wasn't, I must add. But would the Leader of the House support those with dyspraxia and also support a debate in government time to raise awareness of dyspraxia? Millions of people in the country have it, including huge numbers of constituents in this place. Would the Leader of the House support me?
Leader. Well, I'm very sorry to hear of the closure of the foundation, and I know that my honourable friend will be doing all he can to ensure that people have support and the advice that they need. I will certainly make sure that both the Education and the Health Secretaries of State have heard what he has said. He can raise this with them directly on the 17th and the 4th of June, respectively, and I thank him for his ongoing work, which is incredibly important.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Monday, Sir Brian Lang's staff will produce the final report after having heard 6 years of evidence on the contaminated blood scandal. I think it's going to be a momentous day for all of those who've campaigned for so many decades to get that public inquiry. I'd like to know from the Leader how the largest treatment disaster in the history of the NHS, and I think the biggest cover-up by the state, is going to be debated in this House. I'd like to know, will the Prime Minister be making a statement to the House? And will the House have an opportunity for a full debate on the findings and the recommendations from Sir Brian?
Leader of the House. Well, Can I thank firstly the Honourable Lady and her co-chair and the whole of the all-party parliamentary group who have performed such important work throughout the whole of this process, through the inquiry that we established, but also highly technical issues throughout the compensation study that was established, and still now the work that the Paymaster General is doing to ensure that this scheme is properly established. It's hard to find an example that is more extreme than this appalling scandal, and also the successive decades of cover-up, which are still, there are still issues coming to light and being uncovered. It will be an historic day on Monday. I wish it had come decades earlier, but it is happening on Monday. And although I can't give her exact answers to her particular questions, she can take it from me, and I hope she understands that it's sincerely meant, that report needs to be given due attention, the attention it deserves and warrants on the floor of the House.
Andrew Rosendale.
Madam Deputy Speaker, as I'm sure the Leader of the House will be aware, today, the 16th of May, is Middlesex Day.
Yeah.
And so will she join me in commending the Prime Minister in continuing the tradition started by the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson of proudly flying the Middlesex flag from number 10 Downing Street to recognise the historic county of which London is part, and congratulate Middlesex Heritage, the Association of British Counties, and Russell Grant in particular for all the work they do to promote the importance of the historic counties and the part they play in the life of our nation. Will she also bring forward a debate in the House on making statutory provision for the restoration of Middlesex as a ceremonial county with its own Lord Lieutenant or Deputy Lieutenant, and indeed all of our treasured historic counties, ending the many years of confusion and loss of county identity? This is particularly so in towns like Romford that take great pride in being part of the historic county of Essex.
Leader of the House.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that the Prime Minister is continuing this tradition at Downing Street. It is important that we celebrate our counties and everything about their cultural identity, their food, their amazing landscapes and heritage. And I think, having heard the Honourable Gentleman today, there is no danger at all of us losing sight of the importance of that with him on these benches.
Jim McMahon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is a significant issue across Oldham, Chadderton and Royton about the rapid increase in the number of HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. It was previously a big issue in our pub industry where pubs were being taken away and converted into HMOs, but it's now increasingly an issue for family homes that are being taken off the market with actually very inflated sales prices, because of course you get more rental income and that drives the end value. The result, though, in Oldham today, and frankly this also brings into question the issue of the Serco Home Office contracts. There are 500 children in temporary accommodation in Oldham in single hotel rooms because of the lack of supply in family homes. So can we have a debate in government time on the overall impact of housing policy, which includes HMOs, the lack of supply and the Home Office allocation policy?
Well, the Honourable Gentleman raises a very important point, and he is speaking to someone that represents, bar London, the most densely populated city in Europe, and so I understand the issues that he is talking about. He will know that we have done nationally a number of things to help ensure that where HMOs are being built, they are good quality HMOs and not cramming people in. For example, the reforms that we have made to the Valuation Office and council tax rebanding. But I would recommend to him that he speaks to his local authority. They should have a clear map of where HMOs are, and they should have their own local policy about the density of those HMOs. They have the powers to do that. That is what they should do, and their planning committee should be making decisions on that basis.
Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Sadly, we all know that misogyny can lead to acts of violence, sexual attacks. But we shouldn't forget that, and it's right in those circumstances, that we use exclusions to safeguard our staff and members in this place. But I think we shouldn't forget that misogyny can also be part of a sort of everyday culture in workplaces in this country, where women are talked over, their ideas ignored until men put them forward, there are inappropriate comments, so-called banter culture. And all of that can lead on to so much more that we want to prevent. So can the leader probably set out for us what more the government wants to do to attack that culture? And can we have a debate in our time, in government time here, to discuss how we can protect women in the workplace?
Before the House answers, I do want to make sure everybody gets in, because we've got a statement and then a debate. So brief questions are helpful and brief answers. Leader of the House.
Madam Deputy Speaker, well, I think the Honourable Lady raises a very important point, and I'm glad that we have taken measures here to protect people who work here, but of course the environment people work in is incredibly important. Equalities questions was yesterday, but I will make sure that the Office for Government Equalities has heard what she has said and raise it with the Secretary of State.
Janet Davey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A constituent has contacted me about how he is remortgaging at an increased rate of 5.68%. If he did not have ongoing cladding issues, his mortgage lender would have given him still an increased rate, but at 4.67%. He will now see an extra £600 added to his monthly mortgage payments. Now, I'm confident that other people up and down our country are experiencing this double jeopardy due to the government's Conservative failings. So can the Leader of the House say what conversations she's had with her cabinet colleagues on this issue?
Well, the Honourable Lady will know that ensuring that our economy is growing, that inflation is curbed, and that interest rates can come down is a priority for this government, and she will know from the statement that is put out by the National Audit Office earlier this week that his plan is working.
Earl Jones.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Merthyr Tydfil's Old Town Hall, more recently known as the Red House, is an iconic building with much historic significance. It was from the balcony of the building that Keir Hardie spoke to the people of Merthyr Tydfil after being elected as the first Labour MP to this place in 1900. This week, the Merthyr Leisure Trust, the current tenants of the building, closed the doors as the latest episode in a catalogue of failure. I and my Senate colleague have written to the Charity Commission asking them to investigate the failings of the Merthyr Leisure Trust, but can we have a debate on what more can be done to bring this faceless and seemingly remote organisation to account?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the issue in the Honourable Gentleman's constituency. He has done his community a service today by raising this matter on the floor of the House and creating pressure for that dialogue to happen and for heads to be cracked together in his local community to ensure his constituents are better served.
Gavin Newlands.
Madam Deputy Speaker, a few weeks ago I brought the case of my constituent who was savagely attacked by a former partner whilst on holiday in Spain and only saved by the intervention of 5 men from Newcastle whose statements, along with another witness, were never taken by the Spanish police. We wrote to the Foreign Secretary to seek his assistance with persuading the Spanish authorities to reopen the case to avoid a miscarriage of justice. But I have to say the reply I received from the Minister of State for Europe was one of the most disappointing ministerial replies I've received in my 9 years. Indeed, the only suggestion for help was a broken hyperlink for a list of lawyers. So can the Leader of the House use her good offices and urge the Foreign Office here to do more to assist my constituent?
I'm sorry to hear about the Honourable Gentleman's experience, and I will certainly make sure that he gets a better service than that.
Tonia Antoniazzi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Before coming to this place, I was a modern foreign languages teacher, taught in Wigan, taught in South Wales. Absolutely loved it. Took so many pupils overseas to give them that fantastic experience. Can we have a debate in government time on what this government can do to enable young people to travel post-Brexit and have those opportunities that are so sadly missing now?
Well, I admire the Honourable Lady's passion and thank her for her previous service. I think it's an excellent topic for a debate because it would allow us to get on record the benefits of the Turing scheme that is running, the same benefits that have been there before, but on a global basis, not just focused on the EU.
Sam Tarry.
Can I briefly associate myself with the comments for the honourable members for Huddersfield and Broxbourne, who talked about Terry Wiggins, who they didn't mention, has actually served for 40 years playing for the parliamentary rugby team, and just a few weeks ago helped us with a glorious victory at Twickenham. But as any people approaching retirement will be concerned, the DWP's own figures have revealed that the number of pensioners using food banks doubled after the government's economic mismanagement, 101% up in my constituency of Ilford South. So will the government consider a debate on their time on whether the £46 billion black hole in the plan to axe national insurance will hit pensioners once more?
Well, the honourable gentleman may like to talk to some more pensioners. He may find out all sorts of things because they have long memories. They may not think that our elders have a good memory, but in fact they do. They remember the 25 pence rise to their pensions under the last Labour government. They remember the pension credit maladministration. I think it was 10 million that was owed to my constituency pensioners alone. There were also 200,000 more pensioners living in absolute poverty under Labour, and we had, under the last Labour government, the 4th highest pensioner poverty in Europe. And they also can remember which party it was that introduced the triple lock, increasing the state pension by £3,700 since 2010, and it was the Conservatives.
West. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. In 1900, in this very chamber, a bill was passed into law to promote the Alexandra Palace as the People's Palace for recreation forever for the people of London. Of course, it's an international venue now. Would the Leader of the House and the shadow leaders of the House congratulate the staff, the volunteers and everyone who go to make up this fantastic venue, particularly in tough times when people can't take holidays as much? They can enjoy Alexandra Palace and Park, and also, while they're at it, volunteer themselves at the Friends of Alexandra Palace railway station to make the entrance to Alexandra Palace all the more beautiful.
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for giving us all the opportunity to thank the staff and friends and volunteers of Ali Pally and Park, and she has given us all a great advert for anyone that is at a loose end and wants to do something for that particular community.
Alan Brown.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my constituent Rana had hoped to get ILR application expedited so she could fly to the Philippines to attend her father's funeral. My office put in an urgent inquiry but get minimal interaction, and unfortunately my constituent had to attend the funeral online. Also turns out, had the decision been made in time, the need for a biometric card to travel would have prevented her travelling anyway. So can the Leader of the House make sure the urgent LIR application process has just that, and find a way for people to be able to travel without a BRC on compassionate grounds?
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that that has happened to his constituent, particularly at such an awful time for them and their family. If he would give my office the details of the case, I will raise it with the department and make sure they do a lessons learned exercise. We want to ensure that people are able to travel, especially at moments like that.
Matters.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was recently contacted by a constituent regarding her 16-year-old son, who's sadly been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. If that's not enough to deal with, chemotherapy has now started at the end of last month, and he's taking his GCSEs right now. It's a very difficult situation, and what we found is there is a whole raft of different rules and circumstances about when consideration can be taken into account for those GCSEs. Clearly he's going to miss some of the exams because of treatment or the effects of it, and what we found out is it's not at all a clear and straightforward pathway, and on some occasions just a certificate of recognition could be awarded rather than an actual GCSE. So we would really like a debate, please, about what more we can do to make sure this pathway in very difficult circumstances is made easier for parents and the children.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, and I'm sure I speak for us all when we send our good wishes to his constituent and his family. a timely appearance by the Secretary of State for Education, so she may have saved me a stamp, but I will write to her formally and make sure that she has heard what the Honourable Gentleman has said, and he will know how to apply for a debate. I think it's an excellent topic to do so.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Northumbrian Water repeatedly refused to release information on the scale of raw sewage dumping at Whitburn and into the North Sea. An appeal tribunal has now ordered for that data to be released. That was thanks to the persistent work of Steve Lavelle and the Whitburn Neighbourhood Forum. It found that Northumbrian Water had a desire to avoid media or political attention. Can we please have a debate on why this government has not only enabled water companies to dump sewage into our waters, but also to evade scrutiny?
Well, first of all, what she says about this government is not true. If she goes on to the UK Water website, she will see real-time information about the projects that are going on across the country with every water company. It is the largest infrastructure investment of its kind in the world, and it will dramatically reduce storm overflows. The reason why, as she will well know, that we have this release is because of legacy sewage systems that mix stormwater and wastewater, and we have to put the investment in to put that right. When we came into office, less than 6% of such overflows were monitored. That is now 100%. That information is in the public domain. And fantastic local activists like Steve, and I've many in my constituency as well, are working with water companies. They're holding them to account, but they're also working with them to improve that monitoring. I think it would be an excellent topic for debate because we are very shortly going to eradicate this kind of overflow.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the House re-registered her leadership campaign website on polling day. So can her colleagues look forward to more pints with Penny over the coming weeks? And if the answer's no, she's more than welcome to a gin with Gwyn.
I'm sure the House is very keen to hear the story behind this. I'm afraid what the Honourable Gentleman has said is not true. I have done no such thing.
Lynn Brown.
Very grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker. I've recently been contacted by constituents regarding the imminent closure of the Hall, a very small community space in East Village, Stratford, and one very few in the area. As we know, spaces like this are absolutely invaluable, and ours hosts loads of things, including the Browns and the Guides. I'm in the process of making representations to get Living, the developer responsible for this decision, and frankly they're responsible for a whole bunch of very questionable decisions over recent years. Add to this a cladding scandal and service charges which are exorbitant. Can we have a debate in government time on how the actions of developers have undermined the Olympic legacy and failed local residents?
Well, I'm very sorry to hear the situation in the Honourable Lady's constituency, and she will know how to apply for a debate on this matter. I think it's an excellent topic. I will also make sure that the Secretary of State at the Department for Levelling Up has heard her concerns. Clearly, there's been a huge amount of work done to enable community asset transfers, and there is funding available to facilitate that. So I will ask one of his officials to contact her office with any advice they can furnish.
Jim Shannon.
Deputy Speaker, thank you also to the Leader of the House for this chance to ask an important question. All questions are important, but this is one important for the subject that I'm going to refer to. This week I would like to turn our attention to Vietnam. I'm troubled by the very recent arrests and convictions of Christians belonging to the Montagnard minority ethnic group who have been arrested and convicted for their peaceful advocacy of freedom of religion or belief in Vietnam. One Christian, Mr. Bia, was targeted and killed, yet the local police have failed to make any arrests in relation to Mr. Bia's death. Will the Leader of the House join me in condemning these violations of freedom of religion or belief? And further, will the Leader of the House ask the SCDO to raise this very issue with its counterparts in Vietnam? Thank you.
Well, thank the Honourable Gentleman, as he does every week, by shining a spotlight on atrocities going on all over the world. And I'm very sorry to hear about the killing of this gentleman, but also the response by the local authorities in the wake of that. I will, as I do every week, will make sure that the FCDO have heard his concerns, and I will raise it with the Foreign Secretary.
Hannah Bardell.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my constituent Mrs Huria Nichol, who is a dual Algerian British national, travelled to Algeria to deal with her deceased parents' estate. Mrs Nichol travelled out on her Algerian passport as her British passport had expired, and she is now stuck in Algeria. She's unwell and she's been denied entry to the UK on her Algerian passport while she's unwell and cannot access any support from family or friends or any care. Because of her dual status, the British Embassy have denied her help as well. Time is running out. Can the Leader of the House please do everything she can to work with her colleagues in the Foreign Office to give my constituents some support to get her home?
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about this. I will, after this session, make sure that both the Home Office and the Foreign Office, in particular Consular Services, have heard the Honourable Lady's situation. If she wants to give my office some more details and the record of correspondence that she has had, we will do everything we can to ensure that she's given the right support to get her constituent home.
I thank the Leader of the House for answering. Point of order which relates to business questions. Maria Caulfield.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm very grateful for you allowing me to raise a point of order from the front bench. It's in relation to comments that the Shadow Leader of the House made at the start of business questions. Firstly, she did notify me that she was going to raise it, but after business questions had started. But secondly, it's more the content of what was raised, which I personally have found very difficult. I did write to my constituents over a year ago about a consultation that's been run by my local council on 15 to 20-minute communities, which I did in that letter point to some of the rumours about 15-minute cities, because that is something that constituents have raised with me. That consultation is still live on the council website. It's on page 45 of their planning and appraisals document, so it's very much a constituency-based issue. But to be accused of being a conspiracy theorist, Madam Deputy Speaker, on the back of that, especially as the Vaccines Minister, where whenever there's a debate in this place, the amount of death threats and abuse that I get, it is overwhelming at times. And I realise that colleagues sometimes have very valid points to raise, but there is a backlash whenever those debates are held. But more importantly then, to be linked to anti-Semitism, when my family are actually Jewish in London, and have had a very, very difficult time over the last few months. It was devastating, to be honest, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I would just kindly ask the Shadow Leader of the House to either come back and withdraw those statements, or just to reflect that while we all play politics in this space, sometimes it is very personal. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Does the Shadow Leader of the House wish to make a further point of order, further to that point of order?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thank the member for her point of order. As a point of order myself, can I put on record that in my early remarks about the Honourable Member for Lewis, I did not say nor imply that she was herself either a conspiracy theorist or indeed anti-Semitic, and I do not believe that she is either of those things. I was highlighting the dangers of sharing campaigns which featured in a guide which myself and the Leader published last week for MPs on conspiracy theories, however inadvertent the sharing of that may be. And the guide is actually in the library, and I would urge the member to read the section on 15-minute cities in that guide and the links that it has with other organisations.
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for giving me notice of her point of order. Thank you for giving me notice of the point of order. I'm glad that the Shadow Leader of the House was here to hear a point of order and to give the response. Two things I think that are important. Obviously, the giving of advance notice, and I did check with the Shadow Leader at the time that she had given advance notice. I hope that that has led to some clarification of perhaps what was said and what was meant to have been said. I am not responsible for what members say in the chamber but would just remind everybody that good temper and moderation are the characteristics of parliamentary language, and I am sure that everybody in the chamber would, I hope, agree with that. I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you.